Hi, Paul. Welcome to MovieJunk. How are you?
Hey Zaya, I'm doing good tonight. I'm doing good tonight. It's hot in New York.
Oh man, that's what I've been hearing. And Paul, I can't begin to mention how much of an honor it is to have you on today. We have legendary actor, director, producer, writer Paul Borghese. Man, you do it all, and it's been in some classics like the film '61, where you played Yogi Berra. I remember you also in The Summer of Sam, Witness to the Mob, Find Me Guilty, The Family, and just recently The Irishman. I mean, the list goes on and on. With roughly 100 credits to your name, and nearly 35 years in the business. I can't begin to thank you how much of an honor it is to have you on today.
Yeah, it's an honor to be here. You got a great channel going, and you're interviewing some good people and people that I know, and I thought it'd be fun to do this. You look like it's funny. You look like you're sitting in a pantry. Now I realize those are books, but when you first went in there, I thought you were sitting in a pantry, and those were like pantry things on the shelf, but they're all books. Yeah, I
Yeah,
got all my stuff back. I'm here in my film office too, and all my stuff's back here. Movie posters, everything's kind of. I think my head's blocking all the good stuff. Hope it's not too bright.
I see
Those fluorescents
61 in
can
the
kill
back.
you.
I see the 61 poster in the back.
Yeah, that's back there, and all the memorabilia from '61 that I got on that shoot. Yeah, I got a lot of good stuff from them.
I want to just jump right into all these movies, but I hate myself if I didn't take it back to the beginning and just understand kind of how it all started for you and kind of what made you want to get in the business.
Geez, that's always like a funny question because it was like really like a combination of things. I mean, I had done some things when I was younger, like a couple of high school plays, but I really was never really pushing it when I was that young. But I think I always wanted to be in the business on some level. But when I got out of college, I had opened up. Well, I had been in the restaurant business a couple of times, but the first one I had opened up was like a pizza and pasta joint, with like a beer and wine bar, and we did a local commercial, and I got very involved in it, with doing the voiceover for it and deciding what shots we were going to get and how we're going to tell a little story in 30 seconds. And like, I just got the bug. I was like, I love this. This is like, I want to do this. I want to do more of this, both sides of the camera. So at the same time, I went back to school, even though I had finished college. I went to Center for the Media Arts to study film and television production. And at the same time, I was going to HB Studios in the West Village in New York City to study acting. And then from there, it just, it grew, and I worked both sides of the camera, and wherever I was busier, that's where I stayed.
Were there any movies or actors that kind of motivated you at a young age as well? Were there any films that kind of made you inspired to want to get into the business?
Well, I mean, I feel like a lot of, especially Italian American actors, it's like give a lot of, cliche kind of answers that you almost expect. But yeah, it's true. I mean, I did, well, I worked in a lot of different jobs when I was younger, and I worked in a couple of different movie theaters as an usher. And I remember I was working in a movie, this is probably going to date me, but I was working in a movie theater as an usher when Raging Bull was in the theaters. And well, watched that movie only God knows how many times. And you got to know that, Martin Scorsese was the director, and Michael Chapman was the cinematographer. And of course, Robert De Niro, played Jake LaMotta, and then Joey Pesci. So like, so much of that was like, it felt like it was just such an art, that making that film in black and white, that I was just, it really excited me and motivated me to, want to be around that more, and to be in that business. And so many other things. I mean, there's like different movies that are like completely different. Like I remember, it's a real sleeper, but it was called The Idol Maker, and it's an old movie. If you never saw it, you should see it. It was like a movie that just I watched it so many times. I loved the soundtrack, and I would play it in my car, and probably was a cassette tape at the time. And Joey Pantoliano was in it. Joey Pants, who from everybody knows from The Sopranos and so many other movies, and he played a totally different kind of character than the one we would know him to play. He played like a nerdy sort of like a manager type guy, and Peter Gallagher was in it. And that movie, I mean, was like a totally different genre, but like it looked like so much fun to be in movies or working on movies.
Yeah, I was gonna say you mentioned Raging Bull, and Joe Pesci, and then also how you kind of started off in the restaurant business. I don't know if it was true, but I remember reading that I think it was after The Death Collector, Joe Pesci had kind of stopped working, and De Niro was looking for someone to cast him as his brother. And I think they went and found Joe Pesci. He was like a manager at an Amici's pizzeria.
Yes, that's true. Actually, Amici's was on the corner of East 187th Street and East 187th Street and Hoffman Avenue, in Little Italy of the Bronx. And our family business, which I didn't go into, was the men's clothing business, suits, high-end suits and haberdasheries, and it was about a half a block long, 3 storefronts long. And so my father's business, B&G Clothes, was like on the same block as Amici. So Joe used to buy his suits at my father's. Yeah, that was a true story. Apparently he called and Joe didn't believe that it was him calling. He thought it was one of his friends, pranking him, like, this is Robert De Niro and I want you for this movie. And I think he hung up the first time, was the way I heard the story. And then eventually, of course, they connected, and then history was made.
And you mentioned that your father and Joe Pesci were friends.
Yes, they were friends because, from the old neighborhood, from Little Italy in the Bronx, which is, the neighborhood, Arthur Avenue. If anybody, of course, we've all seen the movie Bronx Tale. So that neighborhood is that neighborhood, is what the neighborhood they were trying to emulate. And it really, really was like that in the years that they tried to recreate for the movie. Because I remember as a kid seeing, like, that Sonny on the corner, with his sharkskin suit that my father sold him, kind of thing. So yeah, so Joe knew my father from back then, and so I knew Joe before I worked on The Irishman, and spent some time with him, and so he's a great guy, a great actor, and I was honored to get to work with him on The Irishman.
Yeah, I mean, Joe is one of my favorite actors of all time. I mean, he's one of those guys that can be, extremely serious and scary and menacing, but can be equally as funny. I mean, we see that in My Cousin Vinny. But yeah, you mentioned The Irishman, one of my favorite mob films of all time. I think it's, one of Joe Pesci's best performances out of all the films that he's done. And yeah, I mean, you shared a scene with him. You were actually in the curtain shop. And one of my favorite songs from that film was, I think it's called Delicato. There was a song playing in the background, and there was so much going on in that scene. But what was it like working with Joe Pesci?
Yeah. Well, I worked, actually, I believe that was funny. A lot of people say curtain shop, but I believe it was a material shop, if I remember right. And that shop was actually created not for, I lived in Manhattan for over 20 years, but now I live in Rockland County, New York. And about 15 minutes north of me is a town called Suffern. And they recreated that town to look like that town. So that store was made for the scene. So for me, it was kind of cool because it was like close to home where I went to shoot that. So I worked 6 days on that. So some of the other scenes I was in got cut. So I really wound up with just the one scene with Joe, but it was a gem of a scene. And it was a complicated scene because it was one of those scenes where, Marty started in the back room with dialogue happening there. And you had Robert De Niro at the same time. His character had a voiceover, and he was describing who was who. And, he was describing Joe Pesci's operation. And you work your way out, and then you come to me, and I'm there waiting for him. And then he and I have an exchange of dialogue. I give him an envelope and this and that. And then we work our way out of the store. So we spent like all day shooting that scene because it was a one sweeping scene. It had to be like one take. He didn't want to break it up, so.
Yeah, because in that scene there was a line thrown at the end saying, hey, say hi to your father. Was there some additional story behind that, or?
Yeah, well, it's funny you bring that up because that was part of the gem of a scene for me. It's, I guess in the business we sometimes call it an Easter egg. It's something that's planted in the movie that like only we know about or where it is. And yeah, well, when Joe and I started talking before we did the scene, he hadn't seen my father in years. So he said, hey, how's your father doing? How's Louis doing? And I said, he passed away, Joe. And he's, oh, geez, I'm so sorry. I didn't know. I've been out of touch, and that's terrible. How old, how old was he? And this and that. So when we started doing the scene, we were doing a bunch of improvising in that conversation. And at the end, as I walk out, Joe, the first time we did the first take, Joe said, "Make sure you say hello to your father for me." And, I look back and I was like, "Yeah, okay, we'll do," or whatever I said. I don't even remember what I said. And because we were improvising. And then I didn't say anything to him, and we did it another take. We did it the exact same way again, another take, same exact way again. So I said to myself, "Look, I'm not going to say anything, just the way Joe's doing it." So when we finally got done and Martin Scorsese wrapped the scene, I said, "Hey, Joe, let me ask you something. When you were saying, make sure you say hello to your father for me, it didn't feel like it was really my character relating with your character. We never established that you knew my father. It kind of felt like you like saying that to me." And he said, "What do you think I said it for, kid? Because now you got something, to remember about your father in this movie. Every time you watch this movie, you can remember that we said something to your father in our dialogue." I was like, wow, like you have, I kind of choked up, by him saying that to me because it was intentional. And just, anytime I tell anybody that, especially my mom, when I went home and said, "You're not going to believe what Joe did." He's like talking to dad in the movie, and the movie came out and the line was still there because I didn't know. I thought, well, maybe because it was said, after I stepped out of frame, maybe they'll cut it. Stayed in, so that was like a little, yeah.
Paul, I do see the poster of 61 back there, and you played Yogi Berra. It's directed by Billy Crystal. Really good HBO film. Love to hear a little bit more around kind of what went on in the audition process, because you're also playing. This is the first time that we actually seen Yogi as a player. I know we're used to seeing him as a coach, but was there any added pressure, playing him as a player this time?
No, well, I didn't really even think about that statistic, so to speak, or that trivia till after the fact. But I realized after we did the movie and for all these years, because this year is the 20th anniversary of 61, that it was pointed out to me that I was the only actor to have ever portrayed Yogi as a player. Because in the ESPN miniseries, The Bronx is Burning, Yogi was portrayed by a friend of mine, Joe Grisafi, as a coach manager. And I was also in that show in The Bronx is Burning, but I played a different character. And then Tony Lobianco, I believe it was, did a one-man show as Yogi. But in a movie or TV show, yeah, I'm the only actor to have ever played him as a player. And yeah, the auditioning process was interesting. It was fun because I got to one-on-one with Billy Crystal, not only come in after I read for the casting director, but then meet with Billy, which he came in from the West Coast to audition a number of us, and so not only I did a lot of improv with Billy. So when I knew I was going to be auditioning for Yogi Berra, like I did some research, and I got to know some of his Yogi-isms and where he was from and what his back. So it was great that Billy improvised me because I was throwing in all this like stuff that would have, Yogi would have said or that would have been factual. And I also had to go play baseball. Like I had to go to Central Park with Billy and a couple of people and play ball because I had played catcher in the past. But the funny part of it was that they sent me to baseball training camp in Encino, California. We spent a week, at least a week there, myself and some of the other, the main actors, the main Yankees, I should say, like Barry Pepper, who played Thomas Jane. Barry Pepper, who played Roger Maris, Thomas Jane, who played Mickey Mantle, and Dominic Lamberdozzi, who played Moose Scouring, all friends of mine. So we stay there, and then we played. I trained really hard, as a catcher. And then when we got out on the set the first time we were playing in a scene, Billy came up to me and he says, I got some bad news, and I got some bad news. And I'm like, well, what's the bad news, Billy? And he says, well, we did some additional research, and in 1961, Yogi went out to left field. And Elston Howard took over as catcher because I was putting on my catcher equipment. And I said, oh, geez. So what does that mean? He said, and then he reaches from behind his back and he has this little baseball mitt because, the mitts were really like small in 61. They weren't like now. He goes, well, here's the other bad news. He goes, here's your mitt. Go out to left field. And I'm like, Billy, I didn't swag any fly balls the whole baseball training camp. I go, we were playing a night game, and there's all these like extras in the stands that are, supposed to be the fans. And so I run out there, and then we're warming up, and they're hitting these, they had these like like semi-pro ball players, college players, outside of the main cast, and they're like whacking the ball way up there, and I'm trying to, run to go catch the ball with this little mitt that, looks like nothing more than a mitten that you'd wear when you're shoveling your snow in your driveway. And like, I'm like, underrunning it or overrunning it. And, the extras are going, Yogi, come on, Yogi. And I'm like, I'm not really Yogi, And so that was like kind of funny. But if you watch the whole movie, we all got up to bat. We all hit. I had to learn how to, Yogi played as a righty, but he hit as a lefty. And I had never hit as a lefty. So I had to learn how to hit as a lefty, which Yogi actually helped me with. And Derek Jeter's cousin, I had done, like personal training with on that. But if you watch the movie, the only Yankees that ever get up to bat are Mantle and Maris. Throughout the whole movie, there was a couple of times where you hear, and batting next, number, in the fourth, the fifth position, Yogi Berra. And I'm like, oh, they're going to cut to me. The first time I saw the movie, oh, they're going to cut to me up at bat. And then they jump like ahead into the inning. It was all about like what was in Roger's head, not about necessarily seeing what Roger was thinking about, so that was disappointing. Would have liked to see myself up at bat, but I thought the movie was a masterpiece, so I was really happy with it.
Yeah, no, the movie's awesome, and I do, because I'm a big HBO fan. I always watch a lot of the HBO films, and every few years I always catch myself watching it. And I actually wanted to also ask, because you played Yogi Berra. Yogi Berra has since recently passed. Do you still keep in touch with the family at all, or do you ever get a hold of the?
Yeah, I do. Well, there's not many people know it, but there's a Yogi Berra Museum and Learning Center, and it's at it's at Montclair State College for the most part, sitting atop Yogi Berra Stadium, which they named, Montclair State College named it after Yogi. So I've stayed in touch, and I had been there after the movie. I was at the Yogi Berra Museum for a number of events that they brought me in for. I was on panel discussions with Yogi, which was cool. They did $100 ticket screenings of 61 with panel discussions with me and Yogi and Elston Howard's wife and other ball players. So I've stayed in touch. And then recently they just launched which I thought was really cool, the Yogi Berra Forever postage stamp. So they just had a big ceremony at the museum along with the New York State Postal Services, and they invited me, as a special guest. And so I went there and I saw everybody from the Berra family, Yogi's three sons, and it was fun because his granddaughter Lindsay, is grown up now to be a beautiful, young lady, and she remembered me from way back, and when she's Yogi's granddaughter, and I hadn't seen her in many years. So I always want to try to be supportive of the Yogi Berra Museum and Learning Center, and they know that I would do anything I could for them, or give my time or donate my time to anything they might invite me to that I would appear at.
Yeah, who knows? maybe in an upcoming role, if they ask you to play the coach version, again, that might be something cool to see you again.
Oh, sure. It would be, it would be great to get to play Yogi again at a different age. When I played him he was supposed to be 37, when I played him in the movie, 37 years old. Yeah. But yeah, he was a great guy. And he was, to play, and I'm an Italian-American actor, so to play an Italian-American baseball legend, Yogi was like an icon, he was larger than life type player. Was, like pretty much one of the highlights, if not the highlight of my career as an actor.
Man, you're making me excited. As soon as we get off, I'm gonna have to go and rewatch it again, man, just because I want to see the amazing cast and just see that film again. It was just truly a masterpiece. And it's
a great movie, and it was nominated for 12. It had 12 Emmy nominations. I believe it won 7.
Yeah.
I really believe Barry Pepper should have won Best Actor.
Yeah.
But I think the only reason he didn't was because another actress was up for, like, they mixed the men and the women. And so Barry was up against a woman, a female actor that played a cancer patient. When you have movies like that and the realities of cancer, it's harder to give it to the person who played a baseball player, I guess. Sometimes, how things are political sometimes, but we did win a Best Ensemble Cast Award, so that makes me an Emmy Award winner. So, that's something else I brought away from the movie.
That's amazing. And And also too, I mean, like as I mentioned, I mean, the wonderful cast, and being directed by actually. Question I did have, was it hard? Because I mean, being directed by, I know you guys are all professionals though, but was it different kind of being directed by Billy Crystal? Also, too many just got done with Analyze This. I think Analyze That was right after he got done with this film, though. But was there any difference working with him as a director, or how it could have been as an actor?
I think Billy was the perfect person to direct the movie because not only is he like a baseball encyclopedia.
Yeah,
I mean, Billy knows everything about baseball. I mean, you could talk about every different player, and Billy will like get up in the batter's box and show you their stance. Especially like the old timers. And Billy was like a lot of fun to be directed by because he was all about, like, he just had such a passion for making the movie that he just wanted everything to be so good. But he was so good with the actors, because he's an actor himself. I mean, I'm a director, and a lot of people tell me that I'm an actor's director. I'm all about collaborating with the actor and getting the most out of them. And Billy would, like, we had lots of people in the stands playing extras, and they're wearing hot clothing, because in '61 people would get dressed up to go to the games. They didn't dress like they do today in shorts and a tank top. So Billy would like get on we always had a microphone on set, or a megaphone or something, when announcements had to be made to, like, hundreds of people in the stands. And Barry would every now and then get up there and like just say, okay, everybody, I know you're bored. I know you're only here, for you're all day for a hot dog and a soda, and he would just like start doing stand up. Yeah. So and telling them jokes for like 5 minutes in a row. So these people that were just extras felt like, they were getting this like private show and special attention from Billy Crystal, which I thought was very generous of him, but it kept their spirits up and their energy up when they was sometimes, sitting in the stands in the heat, just watching baseball, mixed in with the cardboard figures that filled the gaps of, all the other, just like they did now with the pandemic. Yeah. They put all in the stands. Well, we did do that in the movies to fill in bodies. So, and Billy Crystal gave us a beautiful, like the main cast members, he gave us a crystal baseball, because his name is Billy Crystal, beautiful crystal baseball with, with the number 61 on it and the asterisk after it, like the movie. So that's in the case over there with a lot of other 61 memorabilia, whatever you have. What else you have from other movies and TV shows?
Yeah, because if I'm not mistaken, I think Billy Crystal, and growing up, he wanted to be a baseball player before anything. I think that's what he wanted to do. Was he had such a passion for baseball. And then I know there was a bit, I want to say maybe it was when he was presenting at the AFIs for De Niro. I saw him say something where he wanted to be a baseball player, and it was something about his height. He made a joke about a doctor telling him that he wasn't going to be a certain height. And but yeah, I definitely think he was the perfect man to direct that film.
Yeah, he did want to play ball. As a matter of fact, he was part owner or major owner of it was the Arizona Diamondbacks, I think, at the time, professional baseball team. And I remember when he cast Barry Pepper, and then he said he was watching Deep Blue. When he watching Saving Private Ryan, he saw Barry Pepper up there as a sniper, and he said, "I found my Roger Maris." And he was watching Deep Blue Sea, and he saw Thomas Jane in that, and he said, "I found my Mickey Mantle." And Thomas Jane had never played baseball before in his life, and told Billy that he had. And Billy cast him, just believe in him. But then Thomas was a natural athlete, so he pulled it off. Believe it or not, imagine never playing baseball and then playing Mickey Mantle in a movie and pulling it off. That's talent.
Yeah. No, definitely an amazing film. And as I mentioned, I'm going to go and rewatch it after we're done with this interview. And Paul, switching to another genre that you're very famously known for playing, the mob genre. I do want to get into Find Me Guilty, which is actually one of my favorite films as well. Vin Diesel. I mean, if you're a fan of Goodfellas, Casino, Analyze This, a lot of the cast from those films, even Sopranos cast, were all in this film, and based on a true story, if I'm not mistaken. And I think it was the first time where an entire family, or I guess there was like 200 members that got tried at once, all in the same case. And I mean, so many questions I want to ask, but before we get into some of those questions, what was it like just kind of working with Vin Diesel?
Well, that was a great experience. I worked for a month straight on that film. A lot of it was courtroom stuff.
Yeah.
and I was sitting I was one of the key defendants. I played Gino Mascarpone, and all these characters were based on real life characters that were had different names in real life. So there's somebody named Marty Ticetta, who actually Gino Mascarpone was a name that Sidney Lumet, the director, made up. So I was sitting at the table with Vin Diesel, as you know, as far as key defendants, and he was playing Jackie DiNorcia, who was a real New Jersey mob boss who really did defend himself, you know, in a case years ago. And there were all these, I forget how many, you know, defendants there were, but there was like, I don't know if it was 26 or 30 or 35. I can't remember now. I did the movie a long time ago. But yeah, there were a lot of the usual suspects were in that movie. You know, you saw a lot of familiar faces. You know, quite a few of them that aren't here anymore, sadly. You know, I think of a lot of the actors, like, you know, Vinnie Bella was in there, and Vinny's gone. I mean, Ron Silver is a great actor. He played the judge. Yeah. You know, Ron's not with us anymore. Alex Rocco was in there. He played Mo Green in The Godfather, and you know, he was in there. So, and of course, Peter Dinklage, you know, played I guess he was the lawyer, the prosecutor, or was he the he's one of the other defendants' attorneys, but Peter was great. Always great, you know. So yeah, it was a great experience working. I mean, Sidney Lumet is a, you know, legendary director. So getting to work for somebody like him, and you know, such a great cast and all friends. I mean, Vin Diesel was, you know, cool and fun throughout the whole movie. So we had a good time making that movie.
Was it tough? Because as you mentioned, a lot of those scenes, you know, were in the courtroom. Was it tough? And I'm sure it took a while to kind of film those scenes. Was it tough to kind of have all you guys in that room shooting those scenes?
Yeah, it was difficult. I mean, Sidney Lumet was shooting with 3 cameras at all times because there was so much to get. And, you know, it got hot in there sometimes. People would, you know, you don't really have a lot to say. So you're in court and, you know, the lawyer's talking, or Vin Diesel speaking as Jackie DiNorcia, or the judge is speaking, you know, and every now and then you're saying something while you're in court until you take the stand, or you're not talking again until you know, the court's, you know, is on a break. So you know, a lot of it's sitting you down around listening to what they're saying, and they're getting shots of you listening and things like that. But I remember Vinnie Bella, God bless his soul. I love Vinnie Bella, and I've been in a lot of movies and TV shows with Vinnie, and I've directed Vinnie many times. And I remember it was really quiet and the filled courtroom, you know, extras in the jury, all this stuff, and all of a sudden you hear snoring, really loud snoring. You know, you hear, you know, really loud snoring, and like Sidney Lumet's like looking around, like, what the hell is that? And there's Vinnie Bella's there, just like dead out, cold, snoring, sleeping. He yells, "Vinnie!" You know, and Vinny's like, what happened? What's the matter? What happened? That's how Vinny used to go, like, you know. And he was, "Don't snore in my courtroom," you know, or on my set. And Vinny just says, "Oh, I'm sorry. Like, Vinny didn't take it seriously. He didn't look at it as like, "Oh shit, I just fell asleep and I was snoring on Sidney Lumet's set." Like, I would have been livid if I did it. And he did it 2 or 3 times, which is really funny. He also did that with another director. Oh, why am I blanking on his name? He's a little bit of a crazy director, if that helps. I'm blanking. He did that movie Xmas, with Lilo Brancato in it. I'm blanking on his name. I hate when that happens. It happens all too often lately. But
I'm stuck too.
If it'll come to me, and I'll tell you. But he did that on his set too, and he got in big trouble.
So they say, you know, Tony Sirico, who plays Paulie Walnuts, you know, he's very similar to the actual characters that he plays. I've always imagined Vinny to kind of be the same way as well too. Was he similar just to kind of how he was on the screen? And
oh yeah, Vinny was very much like a shtick actor, you know. We would call it, like, you know, Vinny did shtick. You know, when Vinny had lines, it turned into shtick, you know. And Tony Sirico was, you know, a real, you know, a street guy, a tough guy, you know. So Tony, I mean, his hair, the way he keeps his hair with the, you know, the silver, that's his choice. Yeah. You know, so every character he does, he wanted that. It's not like they were saying, "Oh, let's do this with Tony Sirico's hair." You know, So yeah, he was a natural at playing those roles. And it's every now and then he get to spread his wings a little bit, but I think he's very comfortable in those roles. And I did a commercial with Tony Sirico. It was um, one of those um, Stacker 2. Remember, everybody's taking those Stacker products, and Tony and I did a commercial where he's the mob boss and I'm the mob guy, and I'm afraid.
Yeah.
And it was like it was a funny commercial, and Tony and I had a lot of fun doing it together because it's just him and I and one of the professional wrestlers, I forget his name, comes in and played like Tony's muscle, and I'm like freaked out that I think they're gonna whack me or something. So I worked a lot with Tony, and Tony's a really nice guy, a great guy.
Yeah, speaking of Tony, who played Paulie Walnuts in Sopranos, you actually snuck up in an episode of Sopranos. I think it was in season 2. It was during the party. I think it was the garbage union party, and it was in the middle of when Tony just got done chewing out Richie, and he was eating like a piece of meat, and then you were having some dialogue, and then he sees you, and right before he's done looking at you, he just passes out.
Yeah, it was a sanitation like party. It was like a golf outing.
Yeah,
the sanitation guys, and I was in that whole when they went in that some of the episodes were about the sanitation for a while there. It was about the sanitation business and Barone sanitation and all that. And Joe Lisi was in with that. My friend Joe Lisi played the role as far as being being Barone. And I'm sort of just rambling about how many pounds my truck was, and I got right through the transfer station. Should have got stopped because my truck was too heavy, and blah blah blah. And I'm just kind of like, and a couple other people are rambling, and Tony's looking at me rambling, and then that was when he was going through his phase of having panic attacks, and he was actually chewing peanuts, not meat. And then he like started spitting the peanuts out of his mouth, and then he just like fell on the floor with his panic attack, passed out, and then his sister comes, running over to him. And it's funny because as an actor, as a director, I'll read something differently than maybe an actor would. So when I read the scene, I was like, oh shit, either that, can I curse on this show?
Oh yeah.
Cursing's okay. So I was like, oh shit, he's seeing blurry here, it says, and he's having a panic, he's gonna pass out. My lines are either going to be like Charlie Brown teacher going wait wah wait wah 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 wah. You're not even going to hear what I'm saying, or I bet you, or they'll blur me and make me a little bit double vision. So sure enough, like about halfway through my dialogue, I start going double vision. I'm like, oh, you have a cameo on the show, and you got to go out of focus for God's sake, But I took that role because who knew that The Sopranos was going to go that many seasons and be that successful? In hindsight, if I knew that, I would have passed on that role because, it was like a day player role. And if I had held out, there was so many more roles that came about that probably I would have hedged my bet that I would have wound up with a bigger and better role. But a bird in the hand is better than two in the bush. So, as an actor, I took the role, and it was one day, but I'm still getting residual checks for it. So I'll take it.
Yeah, because again, that was season 2. And season 1 had probably just finished airing when they were looking to cast season 2. So the show hadn't really been established at that point. And I think it was after the finale of season 2 of what happened to Big Pussy is when it really catapulted.
Yes.
Right.
Right. So, nobody knew. I mean, even when we were shooting, like I worked up, but believe it or not, because I had gotten away from the business and came back to it. When I came back to it, I was back on set doing some things just to get back on set before I was like, trying to get back into the acting roles. So believe it or not, for the first season, I was Stevie Van Zant's stand-in. So I did, I did the film tests that they did before they ever shot the first episode of The Sopranos in the Sopranos kitchen. I was there, and they filmed me as him, supposedly him, to do testing. And then after that, I did his, thinking that they probably would throw me a bone and say, hey, let's give something to Paulie, this and that. But it didn't work quite out like that. If you were a good stand-in, they want to keep you as a stand-in. So the second season, they offered it to me again. And I turned it down. I says, no, I did it for the first season, and I wanted to stop. But you guys kept pulling me back in and asking me, please, come on, So that was what I did the first season. But we didn't know. I mean, people thought when we're on The Sopranos. People thought it was about like The Sopranos, the singers, like sopranos and tenors. Nobody really knew everything about what it was going to be until everybody started reading the scripts, and the next thing you know, it's on the side of buses, and it's like Tony and the other guys with their arms folded and all that. So yeah, so I was in the second to last episode of the second season, but the second season hadn't aired yet because they were shooting it.
Yeah.
So it had just been like the first season, so nobody knew that it was going to blow up like that. You're right. When Vinny Pastore got whacked, on the boat out in the ocean, yeah, like that was like it really was, and all the characters, such great characters on the show. It deserves the accolades that it got. I thought it was a masterpiece of a TV series, and I think it'll capture the mob, at least that generation of the mob and that locality of the mob, probably better, better than anybody ever has done or that will do again. You're never gonna match or top that.
Yeah, I mean, it's my favorite TV show of all time, and I've probably seen Sopranos maybe 100 times, the actual series, over and over again. I mean, I'm probably going to restart it next week, but no, definitely. I mean, it still even holds up today. I mean, you watch it, a lot of the issues and stuff they talk about, it still is stuff that we're facing today. And then now with the prequel film coming out, we get to see some of these characters during their youths, and some of the characters that we saw in flashback scenes actually with full featured roles. So I do got to ask, have you had a chance to see the trailer yet?
Yes, I've seen the trailer, and I'm kind of hoping for and expecting more from the movie than I saw in the trailer. I felt like the trailer was kind of subtle and gave you a little bit of information, but I'm thinking that the movie is going to be even better than the trailer. I feel like the trailer gave you bits and pieces. If you were a Sopranos fan and an audience member of The Sopranos, you would get more of it. Like, I think if someone never watched The Sopranos and saw that, you would be like, well, what is this exactly? But we get it, and we know that Jimmy's son is playing him, and they gave us a little taste and a little flavor of that, and that's going to be kind of cool to see, because I knew Jimmy from before Soprano fame. We lived in the same building in the West Village
Wow.
for a while, down on Bleecker Street. And when I moved out of my ground floor apartment to move upstairs to a bigger double apartment on the fourth floor, Jimmy moved into my ground floor apartment. And when we first met, I didn't even know he was an actor. We met, he was a new tenant, he had moved in, we were talking. And then one day I'm watching TV with my ex-wife, and we're watching Terminal Velocity with Charlie Sheen. And I'm like, holy shit, that's Jimmy from downstairs. So the next day I saw him. I says, Jimmy, I was watching this movie, Terminal Velocity, last night. You're in it. I didn't know you were an actor. I says, I'm in the business too, because we had just talked a little bit. And then we kind of hit it off and became, friends, and bicycle ride in the village together, go have a drink together and hang out. And then things elevated for him in the business with Sopranos, and he eventually moved out and got bigger places, and so I knew him from way back. And also he was he helped me out a lot in the way of in 1998 there's something called the Italian Actors Union, and it was for Italian speaking actors. There was a time where we needed a union, back in the 1930s, 40s, 50s. There was a lot of Italian speaking theater in Manhattan and in the boroughs. And then by 1998, there was no Italian speaking theater. So the union itself, which was an actual union, same powers as Screen Actors Guild, AFTRA, AGMA, ACVA, and it was only down to about, I think, 67 members. And they kept asking, why don't you run for president? Why don't you run for president? I was like, but of what? There's no Italian speaking theater. So I ran for president, I won. But then I reinvented it and rebuilt it. So instead of it being called the Italian Actors Union, we call it GIA, the Guild of Italian American Actors. And then we made it more about not so much Italian speaking theater, but about the networking for Italian American actors. And one of the first members that I recruited, because I was on the set of The Sopranos, was Jimmy. I said, Jimmy, would you join? I says, because I'm trying to recruit and build this up again. And he brought me his check to the set. I forget how much it was, but he filled out his application. So that helped me, because other people wanted to join when they saw that different people are doing well with members. And I built it up to over 500 members from 1998 to 2002. But then I wasn't president anymore. I stepped out of office, and now it's kind of, unfortunately, sadly, dwindled back down again. But we were like an entity to be reckoned with at the time. Yeah.
I imagine. I mean, during that window, I mean, that was probably, you mentioned, close to 500, members. I mean,
Yeah.
substantial. And I imagine some of the big players, if not all the big players, were involved. But I mean, the who knows? Maybe would you ever consider running again and maybe kind of building it?
No.
No, no.
No, that was a volunteer position,
Yeah.
and I had to put a lot of my own personal career, on the back burner for that. And I'm very involved. I mean, as an Italian American organization, but I'm very involved in the Order Sons of Italy of America, and I'm a member of my local lodge here. We own a building. I'm on the council there. I built a bocce ball park in memory of my father there. So we do an annual Italian feast here, which is the largest Italian feast in the country that I'm the entertainment director of, an MC, which is coming up this September. We had to skip last year because of the pandemic. So I'm very involved in the Italian community in that way, but I could never go back and be president of the union again.
Yeah, anytime you hear Italians and unions, there's always some issues going on. So
yeah, well,
no, but definitely when you were running,
it comes with the territory.
Yeah, I did want to jump into the next film, and we had briefly talked about Vincent Pastore, The Family, actually with Robert De Niro, Michelle Pfeiffer, Tommy Lee Jones, Dominic Lourdes as well. I mean, I actually really enjoyed this film when it came out, and this was back in 2013, so about eight years ago, if I'm not mistaken.
Wow, was that long ago? Wow.
Well, this was a different kind of mob film, because it's De Niro in a mob film, but with his family, and he's escaping the mob, going to, I think it was Normandy, France.
Yeah. Yep.
Under the witness
protection program. Yeah.
Yeah. So this was a little bit different. We're taking the mob out of their normal elements. So and you had a very intense scene when you guys go and try to whack the family. But what was it like working on that film?
That was great. It's funny you mentioned Vinny, because I just talked to Vinny today. I was talking to him about, coming to our Italian feast, which he's going to come. Louis Veneria, who is an actor, and Al Sapienza, they all come to my feast to perform. A lot of these actors perform and sing too. And so Vinny's, wants to come to the feast and perform with Louis and Al and everything. So, and then after we got off the phone, he texted me and said, the family is on Stars Network. It's on now. Like, so I was laughing, like I'm thinking of Vinny talking, and I'm like, oh yeah, somebody told me last night that texted me and said, oh, I'm watching The Family right now. So it's on the Stars Network
and
now, but yeah,
Netflix too.
And Netflix too. It's on. I don't even, sometimes I don't even know, when my own movies are on.
It was one of the
that was
viewed films for a while.
It is. All right, good. Because it didn't get as big of a release as it probably deserved. But yeah, that movie was different because, it was directed by a French director, Luc Besson. Mm-hmm. And it's much different than like being directed by a Martin Scorsese. And it was like it was a comedy, but at the same time, it was very violent, which was, an odd dichotomy to be able to mix the comedy with the violence. But people seemed to take to it. And I worked on that for a little over a month in France. Yeah. We shot a day in Brooklyn just to establish, something in Brooklyn. But we shot all of it in Normandy, France. It was Robert De Niro and Michelle Pfeiffer, Tommy Lee Jones, quite a few other, Diana Agron from that show Glee, Dominic Lourdes, who's a friend of mine from 61. So we had Jimmy Palumbo, who played the other FBI guy. So I had a lot of friends, and Jimmy and Vinny Pastore and I were there together in France for a month. So that was fun. We had 4 days off, and they sent us to Paris. So me and Vinny took a little vacation in Paris for 4 days and went to go see the Eiffel Tower. I probably would have never went to the Eiffel Tower if I didn't do that movie.
Yeah, because
that was fun.
Because that film kind of, to be honest, the kids really made the film. I mean, they did such a good job, and it kind of reminded me of like if Tony had to go witness protection to France. It's like kind of like what would AJ and Meadow do? You know what I mean? So
yeah.
It was I actually really
Johnny DeLeo. Johnny DeLeo was the name of the young boy. Well, now he's grown up, but he was the actor who played De Niro's son.
Yeah,
and he did a great job. I thought, him and Diana together were terrific as the brother and sister team.
Yeah, he had his own racket within the school.
Yeah, yeah, he's selling this, selling that, hustling this, hustling that.
If I'm not mistaken, wasn't Martin Scorsese a producer, or he had some part of this film? If I'm not mistaken, I think he was a producer on the film. Because I remember when I watched it, I saw
I don't think so.
Somewhat attached to it on there.
It's odd that I wouldn't know that if that were the case. Maybe sometimes after the fact, some of these movies will get someone to attach their name, but I don't recall that. I'd be surprised if that were the case and I didn't recall, but you might be right. Because I thought the first time that I worked for Marty was on The Irishman. I was pretty sure about that. I don't know.
Yeah,
have to look that up.
What was also cool, at the end of The Family, they actually had a screening of The Goodfellas. You hear Henry Hill.
Oh yes, yeah.
They had a screening of the Goodfellas.
Yeah, that's right. It's because De Niro's character has everybody at like the town hall or whatever it was, and he's going to show them that movie, and he was going to analyze it and this and that. So that was funny that they did. So maybe that's what it was. And maybe Scorsese's name was brought into it because Goodfellas was shown. Maybe a special thanks or something. I don't know.
Yeah, no, possibly. And also too, I know because we actually interviewed Chris Caldovino not too long ago, and a movie that actually you guys were all in with Tony Darrow as well, Made in Chinatown. You guys all recently worked together as well too. That movie, it's kind of a spoof on the mob, and it's got like a Chinese character in there too, and it's really funny movie. Actually, I had a chance to see it on stream.
Yeah, Chris Caldovino he's a great guy. I had fun working with him. I could tell you, there's nothing but good things to say about him. And of course, I always love to work with my cousin Tony Darrow. We've worked together so much.
That. So I didn't think you guys were related.
Yeah. Well, Tony's name is really it's Nunzio Anthony Borghese. My father was Nunzio Borghese. So, but when Tony started in the business, his manager had him change his name. He said you had too many syllables. It was too ethnic. So he changed it to Darrow, Darrow. But Tony and I really, have the same last name. And so we worked, Robert Samuels, Bobby Samuels was the director on that. It was a spoof. It's like a spoof comedy, and it's about like this Chinese guy is trying to get this Italian girl, but she's all impressed with like wise guys and street guys and guys with bling bling and this and that, and he's trying to find a way to get her. So he feels he's got to try to sneak his way into the mob somehow, which of course would be impossible in real life, but in the movie, things happen that are funny, and he somehow tries to infiltrate the mob, and then eventually, as I won't give the ending away, but so there's a lot. It was fun because again, I got to work with a lot of my friends like Joseph D'Onofrio.
Yep.
Was in that movie. It was only in one scene, but we got to work together again. I did a lot with Tony, Vincent Pastore. I've worked so much with Vinny, Tony Ray Rossi, William DeMeo did a little cameo in there. So a lot of the actors I've worked with before were in there. So we had some. Oh, and Goomba Johnny, Johnny Saliani, right?
Yep.
Goomba Johnny was in there. We had a lot of laughs together on that. So yeah, he's doing these movies sometimes are like memories of like going to summer camp because you're with your buddies, and you're getting paid for it. So who's better than us?
And you mentioned Will DeMeo, Joseph D'Onofrio, and you were in the first season of Gravesend, which is a really good show on Amazon Prime. I highly recommend for folks that haven't seen it to watch it. If you're a fan of the mob genre, you're kind of doing yourself a disservice if you haven't seen it. But season 2 is about to come out, and the lineup is insane. I mean, I actually follow the Gravesend Instagram, and Armand Asante is joining. I mean, the cast that's joining for season 2 is insane. I think filming for season 2 is done, right? It's in post-production.
No, actually, well, season 1 aired, and season 2 was shooting. Some of it was shot in Florida.
Okay.
Mostly in Miami Beach and Fort Lauderdale, and there was a break in the action now, and we're resuming filming in New York, mostly in Brooklyn,
Oh, cool.
starting in August. So my character, I'm not one of the mob guys, you know, in this one. I'm an FBI agent. I'm sort of like the Chief FBI Agent Morano, and I'm like, you know, kind of like a no, as William DeMeo put it, because he wrote it, was like he's a no nonsense guy, you know, and I'm kind of disgusted with these, you know, mob families and that they're Italian, because I'm Italian American as an FBI agent. So I'm like kind of, you know, saying things like that, and some of my dialogue is about that and how I'm embarrassed by that, and I'm out to get them. You know, I'm out to put them away. So now I'm about to do more work in it in the Brooklyn side of it. When it's gonna you know air, I'm not really sure, but yeah, it's called Gravesend, which there was a movie called Gravesend, but this is the the TV series.
Yeah, awesome. So
And I've worked a lot with William DeMeo before in the past. We've done a lot of work together. We've known each other for a long time, and we've made several feature films together that I've directed, and we co-wrote Searching for Bobby D, which the comedy I'm very proud of.
Yep.
You know, Carmen Electra, Sandra Bernhard, Tyson Beckford. I mean, I could go on and on with the cast in that. And then we made Once Upon a Time in Brooklyn, which is originally called Goat. That was with Ice-T and Ja Rule and Danny Glover. No, Danny Glover was in the next movie we made, which was Back in the Day.
Back in the
which
day.
also had Alec Baldwin in it,
Yeah.
and Annabella Sciorra, and well, we had a great cast in that one. And we've also there's a lot of projects, like a lot of us get like pilots off the ground, and we shoot pilots and pilot demos. So I've done a number of reality show and pilot demos with William DeMeo that we were pitched or being pitched that haven't quite gotten to air yet, as as a series. One is called Sit Down that we did together, and we've done a number of other ones. I have a series called which I developed with my cousin Tony Darrow. I'm the creator, but we produced it and we shot the first episode at Rayo's, and it's called Dinner with the Food Fellas, an invitation you can't refuse.
Wow.
And it's a play on Goodfellas, and it's like the three hosts of the show are actors that are known for playing Goodfellow type roles. So that's why it's called Dinner with the Food Fellas. And it's Tony Darrow, my cousin, Joe Ganascoli, who is a chef and played Vito Spatafori on The Sopranos, and Vincent Pastore. And in our first episode, their guests were Lorraine Bracco from The Sopranos and everything else, and Goodfellas, and Anthony Michael Hall, who's a good friend of mine who's worked in much different genre, and Emily Francis. So we have a number of these things. We have one from Geek to Guido. It's called. It's a reality makeover show. We even have one called You Got Whacked: Gangsters and Pranksters. And Tony Darrow plays sort of like the Alan Funt of Candid Camera. So it's people, no ordinary people in situations where they think they're rubbing elbows with or coming into conflict with a real wise guy. Like let's say you're in the store and something happens and this guy, oh, what are you doing looking at me like that? Whatever it might be. I mean, we have a lot more funnier stuff than that. And then at some point when they think they're in this situation and, oh my God, I can't believe this, I said something, the wrong thing to the wrong person and trying to get out of it. Then Tony comes out like Alan Funt used to do on Candid Camera, or like, what's his name used to do on, You Got Punked, on Punked.
Ashton.
What's his name? Ashton Kutcher. And Tony will come out and say, hey, well, don't worry about it. You got whacked. He's like, what do you mean I got whacked? You got whacked. It's a prank show. Look, there's a camera there. There's a camera here. There's a camera here. That's something else that we have that we're pitching. And Michael Moda, who I'm going to be doing the upcoming Mob Movie Con, the July 24th to 25th at Harrah's in Atlantic City. I'll be appearing there, and Michael Moda, who really is the mastermind behind all that, runs that, might be getting involved with us in Dinner with the Food Fellas, because he loves the mob genre so much. So he's reviewing the materials now.
That's awesome. Yeah, no, I'm excited. I'm actually planning on attending the Mom Movie Con / Sopranos Con. So yeah, no, definitely, man. I'm seeing the lineup, as we come closer to the event. But yeah, definitely, I can't wait to see the show with you and Tony Darrow, because he's the epitome of like the mob guys. So like if someone like that came up to me like in the middle of the streets, I'd be like, oh man, like I wouldn't want to mess with this guy. So that sounds like that.
Trust me, you wouldn't want to. Tony is very street, and Tony's hardcore, and like when he played that role, I mean, he wasn't the aggressor, but when he played that role in Goodfellas, Sonny Buns, who owned or Buns, who owned the tiki bar there. That whole scene he did with Paul Sorvino when he goes to him to have a sit down was a lot of that Tony like created, like Martin Scorsese says, Tony, I know what would go down in a sit down like this. Like, what kind of stuff would we say? What we do? So when I see that and I watch that scene, every time I'm seeing my cousin Tony there, because it's like he's saying things like, it's like putting a silk hat on a pig. All those things Tony came out with. They weren't in the script. If you stay there, if he stays in the bar a little bit longer, Henry comes to the bar all the time. If he stays in the bar a little longer, he become one of the stools. He's there that often. All those things with Tony's jokes and Tony's shtick that he like worked into the scene that wasn't in the script. So he's definitely like your quintessential wise guy on camera if you need somebody to play one. The boss. Now he's a boss. He's got to be a boss at this age.
Oh yeah. He's also like the roles that I've been seeing, even in Sopranos, he was a captain. He was kind of right below the boss.
Yeah.
For all the seasons. But yeah, no, he's definitely the boss character kind of going forward. I don't know.
It was Larry Boyd Borghese in The Sopranos. Yeah.
Yeah, Larry Boyd. I don't know if it's too early for you to share, but regarding an upcoming project around the Columbus Avenue Boys that you're going to be directing and writing, are you able to share some more context? Because that's also based on a true story, correct? Back in the 30s.
Yeah, that's it's based on a true story, but it's also a lot of fictional. I can't say too much about that project because a lot of things aren't attached to it officially yet. But David Caratero, who's an accomplished writer, wrote the book and collaborated with another writer to do a screenplay adaptation of the book. And that actually we were greenlit and we were going to be making that movie well before the pandemic. And then, just like anything else in this business, things fall through and things change. So they're regrouping now, but it looks like it's going to be a go for, like early next year, or I say next year, like 2022. But there's not too much more I can really say about that project, but it is called the Columbus Avenue Boys.
Awesome. So
it's a feature film.
We'll save a little bit for round two. Once we get more details, we'll do that in round two of our interview session. Paul, I want to be respectful of your time. I know we got a chance to talk about so many things that I've been just itching and holding, wanting to get this interview with you. And I'm so honored to have you on. I mean, you're just a dictionary of just, content and, your experience and working, 35 plus years. You mentioned earlier, 100 plus films, and definitely sounds like there's a lot more projects in the works. So I can't begin to say how honored I am to have you on. Longtime fan, and looking forward to seeing you at the Mom Movie Con. I just want to thank you for joining today.
Well, thanks for having me. This was fun. I'm glad I did it. A lot of things, a lot of podcasts and YouTube channels are popping up, and sometimes it's hard to keep up on the requests. But you're a good guy, and we were talking and going back and forth with messages, and I've been looking at your content, and you got good people coming on, and I think you're a good interviewer, and I love the name MovieJunk. It's like just talking about MovieJunk. We're talking about movie stuff. We're talking shop. So I'm glad we did this. I look forward to seeing it posted when you do, and of course I'll share it.
I really appreciate it. Thank you very much, and enjoy the rest of your evening. We'll talk soon.
All right, thanks. You too. Have a good one.
You too. Bye-bye.